We do three things at Marketplace Connections. We try to do business connections, relationship connections, and spiritual connections. I was thinking of a story just to illustrate that. It kind of starts at our church, North Sound Church in Edmonds, and we connected with students at Edmonds Community College, had 10 of them in our home from January through May every Friday from 6 until 9. Did a short version of entrepreneurial leadership training. Dave Dalton was there to help. Lisa was there to help teach some of the classes. Connected with a bunch of them. They were all around the world, including Fani. Fani is Indian. He lives in Hyderabad. So I'm still in touch with Fani. I just got an email from him yesterday because I'll be in his city in October. I said, Fani, we've got an event coming up. We'd love to have you come. And he is not yet a follower of Christ. And so this event is the Bible and science, are they compatible? So Fani said, I'd love to be there, so he's going to show up. So I thought, it's so fun. You go from North Sound, Edmonds, India trip, all those connections. Yeah. So it's been good business connection, relationship. He's a friend, and we're having spiritual conversations also. So I call it kind of God's kingdom network around the city, and I just kind of show up and try not to mess things up, basically. Alden, I just met at our church several months ago, and when I met with him, I thought, oh goodness, here's a perfect candidate for Marketplace Connections locally and India. So Alden is going in January to Udaipur to teach at the Philadelphia Bible College. And so I'm excited about that. And you have business connections down in Pune also with CDK. Alden is an SPU graduate. Who else was SPU? Chris? Okay. And Westmont. Westmont, Tim, right? Westmont graduate a few years ago?
Yeah, just a few.
A few years ago. Yeah. Alden's done a whole bunch of things. He is the web designer for user experience at CDK. And the one thing I noted in the brochure was that he blames his 15-year-old daughter for the gray hair. Is there a story that goes with that? Or
yeah.
Teenage hormones or something like that? Something like that, yeah. Hey, we're excited to have you come and share. And I love your topic. I've worked with difficult people. I probably have been a difficult person to work with. And we don't need any stories about that this morning, okay? So Alden, come and share with us.
Wanted to share a little bit about myself. So I work for CDK Global. We are in the automotive industry, a $38 billion industry. We're a $2 billion company and looking to grow. If you're interested in investing in a good NASDAQ stock, the name of the company is also our sticker number, so CDK, look us up. The best way to describe what we do is really that we're a full service organization for the dealership. So if you think of a car dealer and everything that they need to do to run their business, from managing their inventory to service and parts, we service the hardware, the network, and the software that powers their business. As well, we're doing websites and advertising, and then connecting the digital world into the storefront to enable strong consumer experiences in the car vertical. So that's CDK. It's been a great company. I've actually worked for them for 17 years. Kind of growing up through the rounds of web design, and now I'm running a international team of user experience professionals responsible for the design of all the software that we power. So quite a privilege. Working with difficult people. Anybody work with difficult people? Is this a good topic? Is it relevant for today? As we all head back to work from our vacations and school, all that, I thought, gosh, I have some experience, so let's get into this. So some of these behaviors might resonate with you. They're things that just drive us nuts. But controlling, right? Arrogant, large ego, bully, intimidating, slow to get to the point. That one can really get you, right? Where you're just like, even if you ask a yes or no question, and what you get back is half of War and Peace, and you just wanted the answer. They always talk about themselves. That's a tough one, right? Some of these people, they're just waiting for you to finish what you have to say because they have everything that they want to say about themselves. Waste time, right? The guy that comes in late to work and then small talks and then goes for coffee. Bad hygiene, enough said there. Irrational thinking, lack of decision making, brown nosing, disrespectful, unthankful, rude, disruptive, overly emotional or dramatic, and know-it-alls, right? And there's probably a whole bunch else that's on that list that you could relate with. So, wow. So we're going to solve all of this today by figuring out how to have peace in your workplace. You know, so the question to me is, so what makes you so qualified, Alden, to talk to us about working with difficult people? Well, number one, I'm a parent, as are many of you, and you know what it's like to have kids, right, who exhibit a lot of these behaviors. But in truth, I did have the opportunity, if you can call it that, in my early career, to work in a pretty extremely hostile environment. I worked with disadvantaged kids in a long-term group facility. There were boys ages 7 to 13, about 14 of them, and all of them had been through physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. So pretty traumatic lives. And in this experience working with them, it was quite a rock to my world because I had grown up in a good, nurturing home, lots of support. And so part of what got me into social work is I had a passion for these kids, and I was curious, you know, what is it like? How can I help? So in this experience, I encountered such things as fists being thrown at my face. I was spit on, I was cursed at, had rocks thrown at me, threatening, pulled my hair, you know, just all kinds of things. In fact, we were doing physical restraints, like literally holding some of these kids on a daily basis. We had a safe room. This doesn't sound like Amazon right now, does it? We had a safe room where we put the kids and then, you know, stand outside. It had a plexiglass window. We'd never leave them. We'd be right there. It didn't even have a doorknob on it. Just hold it shut and just say, hey, look, when you're calm and safe and not threatening, we'll talk, right? And I care about you, and I'm here for you, but we got to settle down here. So it was through this experience I learned about fight and flight, if you ever heard of that term before, right? This is something that people deal with in traumatic situations where, you know, the first thing that happens is it goes straight to your emotions, right? And you freeze, or you fright, or you flee, and you're not thinking rationally, and you're not you know, working off your frontal part of your brain. So it, you know, through that experience, I remember losing my cool a couple times. And one of the counselors came over to me and said, you know, Alden, something you have to remember, you know, when they go after you and they start calling you names and talking about the things you're wearing, the thing you just did, or the thing you just said, and they're really picking on you, but at the end of the day, it's really not about you, right? You have to remember there's quite a backstory behind this that's driving this behavior. And it was through this experience that I began to really be able to control my own emotions and see through these challenges. And I think as I flipped careers into the business world, that was very relevant. And so it's with that that I, feel I have some things to share with you today. Cool? So is it worth fixing, right? I mean, working with difficult people is a challenge, and I think to some degree, as we went through that list, and tell me if I'm wrong, you probably identified a person or two, right, that came to mind that just kind of gets you, and you wonder, like, gosh, should I even explore trying to make this better? Is it really worth it? I'll just get through it. I think it is, and here's why. It makes you sweeter, right? Focusing on yourself and what you can better about you, and really working through these difficult relationships makes you stronger. I recently had a situation at home. There was a question on the property line. The fence that we had that has been there for 35 years has always been the indicator of the property line. Well, come to find out through a survey, it was off by inches, and having to adhere to that would throw our whole design off, and the neighbor didn't want to budge. So, all of a sudden lawyers get involved, and we had a lawyer that told us this is a slam dunk, like easy, just sign here, $700. You won't even have to do anything else. So, I was right there on the cusp of just doing this and calling it a day, and I'm thinking about my neighbor, and I'm thinking, I can't, I just really gotta work this through, and so through a long story short, and a bunch of meetings over coffee that weren't exactly smooth, but we got through it, and we came to a compromise, and we came to an agreement, and today, we have a new fence, and the remodel's done, and I have a neighbor that I enjoy. So, sometimes it's worth it, right? Instead of taking the easy path, it's worth it to work on it. And at the end of your life, what do you want people to say about you too, right? I mean, I think we'd all say that one of the best things that we could hope for is that everyone would say of us, he was a great guy. He had a lot of diverse friends. He got along with people, right? That's what we'd all want, so it's worth it. It sets you up for success now and later. I think this is important. They say, don't ever slam the door on your way out. It's important to work through it, because you never know what the next situation is, or if that person ends up moving next door to you, or being a part of the team that you're going to work with, or the company that you end up at. So it's always worth it to work through it. You may be their only hope. So in the case of some of these kids, right, you never know that person at work, that part of their behavior might be derived from some hurt and some pain, right? And I think we're all after, at the end of the day, affirmation, right? We all want to be loved. We all want to be affirmed. We all want to be heard. And for people that haven't had that, and some of us have been in that boat where there hasn't been a lot of that in our early childhood, we seek that in the workplace, right? And it comes out sometimes in ways that just rub other people wrong. So if you can, again, see through that and go, gosh, I wonder if there's something going on there, and I'll work to see through that, you may be a ray of light in somebody's life. And it elevates your healthy relationships. So working and practicing on working with difficult people elevates the ways that you relate with people that you already get along with. So we're all wired differently, right? And I think as I thought about this, the question that came is, why can't everybody just be like me, right? Anybody done the Myers-Briggs test, right? This is a good one. If you haven't, you gotta. It's a great personality test. It just really kind of gives you a four-letter code that describes just your makeup, like what makes you tick. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you work on your gut or do you work on facts? And it kind of breaks out how you tick and what makes you work. And I found it to be super helpful, not only for myself, but if you get into it, you can look at your boss's score, right, or have them do it, and recognize ways that you can work to better engage with them because they like it a certain way or they work in a certain way. It also gives some context for how they operate and what makes them tick. You need, in the company, you need different people to, fulfill different jobs. I think of in my early career as a designer, right? I'm the design guy, and my thing was I love to dream and whiteboard and concept, and what I was after was what's the problem, and then give me some time to go explore this out, right? Well, in the same room is my project manager, right? And all she cares about is definition, right? The sooner she can get to definition, the better things are, right? So immediately we have this collision where I'm like, no definition. Just let's brainstorm this out. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're driving me nuts. So I think it's helpful to recognize that we're just wired differently. And I've, over time, learned how to deal with that situation. Doesn't make her a difficult person, just makes her different, right? And so, we got to this place where I could say, look, let's time box my time, right? And make it 2 weeks, right? I got 2 weeks, I'm going to go off, and at the end of that, we'll have definition. She's like, great, I can deal with that. It's 2 weeks, right? Because that was enough. And it all worked. So sometimes it's just understanding how people are wired. You would actually be annoyed by you. I don't know. Imagine a room of yourself. You'd probably find things that drive you nuts. So let's get into this. Tips for dealing with others. So I've got a little laundry list, and it starts with really looking introspectively, right? So you can't go and change people, but you can change yourself and the way that you look at the world, right? So these are some tips that I've come up with. Avoid absolutes like always and never. Some of these you've heard, right? It isn't helpful that you take the situation at hand and expand it, right? So deal with the situation at hand. Take it to a feeling level. It's less about right or wrong or the actual fact of what happened. And I think, in the workplace, there's disagreements, right, on the best way to do something. I think, what I've had success with if I say, hey, when you do this or when this happens like this, the way it makes me feel is X. Who can argue with how it makes me feel, right? And I think by doing that too, you maybe give some insight to the person, like, okay, well, it's not about right or wrong. It's really about, do I care enough that, I could make you feel better and we could work through it. Resolving conflict in person or on the phone, 10 times better than email. I know probably all of you have had those situations where you see these emails come in and you're like, no, and here it goes, right? The novel response to the email and CC and all this. I have found that almost never things get resolved that way. And I coach my team to get up out of your seat, as awkward as it may be, and just go have that conversation in person, because you'll get much further. Also, email is just so misunderstood, right? It's hilarious, and there's actually a bunch of stuff on the internet where you could read the same email from two different tones, right? And one person didn't mean it that way, but it was interpreted exactly opposite as it came through. So know where your absolutes are. I think that's an important one. There's just some things not worth getting all tied up about. But then there's other things that, you don't want to get run over with. So you need to know where you stand. Listen well and then reflect back what you hear. This is just a powerful one, right? Especially in a conflict, when you're working with somebody that's upset or hot. It's really helpful to let them have the time to share what they want, and then ask them, hey, can I repeat back to you what I think I heard? What you're feeling is this, and when I do this, you feel X. And you're not necessarily agreeing with them, you're just repeating back that you've heard them. And sometimes, gosh, just making that connection sets things at ease and helps them along. Try to put yourself in their shoes. It's always a good one, right? Turn the tables. Remember that their actions and words may be related to an experience in their past, right? Kind of what I talked about in my history with the boys. Aim for alignment, not agreement. So this is a good one, and had some leadership training around this. And this is really helpful because, in the workplace, so much of the time what you're ended up doing in a meeting is trying to get an agreement or a direction or a decision. And you're often not going to get all parties that agree. But if you can start having a conversation around alignment to say, look, I recognize not everybody's going to completely agree and believe that this is the best way, but as a functional team, can we align to this? Or in a one-on-one, would you align with me on this or come up with a compromise? I think that's the goal. Be careful that your body language doesn't put other people off, right? Sometimes sitting there like this or rolling your eyes, those kinds of behaviors, whether you're saying anything or not, it gives the message that you're not really there welcoming them. And be humble and show grace. I think it's hard to do, and we'll get into that a little bit, but sometimes it's just putting on grace and giving to that person something that maybe they don't deserve, or you just don't feel like they deserve, but you give that to them, and it's powerful. So how do we take that list of just kind of getting along and now go to the next level, right? If you're really after it and you really want to go after this person and build a relationship with them where there really isn't one before, these are the top 3 things that came to my mind, is pray for them, right? Sometimes we don't always know how to go about it, right? So maybe God does. So it's helpful to pray for them, to serve them. And this is interesting, right? So would you consider intentionally going out of your way to do something for this person? I think it has a powerful impact. Sacrifice something I care about just to help somebody along. In my experience, if you find opportunities where you can do that, wow. I mean, it's pretty powerful. Because at the end of the day, that person who's looking for that affirmation is really going to feel that from you. And as I wrote these things down, as I was thinking about it, I thought, gosh, this is actually a template of Jesus. And I'm not going to make this a sermon, but it's like, wow, this is the model that he showed to us, right? That he would pray. He prayed for himself. He prayed for others. He demonstrated what he was trying to do, bringing about peace and reconciliation by serving, and ultimately his sacrifice. So it's a great template. So how do we do that, really, right? And I think as I thought about working with difficult people, sometimes it comes down to, gosh, do I have the energy and the strength to even put forward that kind of energy towards it? And so the question that comes up is, where do you get your strength from? And for me personally, I love this scripture from Galatians. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is joy, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And as I look at myself, I think often, gosh, I don't possess that naturally, right? I'm a fallen person, and so I need God's help to really help me do this. And so I would encourage you, whether it's going for a walk or just having time alone, being with another person, a mentor, someone that you encourages you, whatever it is that helps you get strength to be that person for others at work. Something to think about. So I've got an exercise called Bridging the Gap, right? It's on your table, and we're going to take a little bit of time to have you fill this out. And what this is a powerful tool, and I actually have a soft copy. I'd be happy to email it to you. It's a great tool. I've used it with my team and other people in the workplace. When you have conflict and you're just not getting along, it's an amazing tool for just having a conversation and uncovering what it is specifically that's missing. And I'd say 95% of the time that you do this, the relationship is changed. It really is, because it's a very transparent and honest conversation, and there's something very empowering that happens around it. So what we're going to do is, that person that's been in your head the whole time I've been talking, you're going to write this thinking about them. And, and maybe you don't have an immediate difficult person that was on your mind, but maybe it's somebody that you would like to build a relationship with. Maybe it is your boss. Maybe it is a coworker. Really, what I want you to do is fill this out. And the way it works is you give it to them, and then have them fill it out, and you fill it out. And then what you do is you come back together and compare notes, right? And go through each step, and each one shares. And then at the end of it, you share back what you heard from them, and they share back what you heard that they heard from you. So it's a pretty cool thing. And actually, one of the questions in here is letter C here. It says, "What would you be most afraid to say to me?" Whew. What is it that you're thinking about me that you would think I would not ever say that to you? And it's powerful to be able to write that. Honestly, you drive me crazy, or whatever it is. It's pretty powerful, and actually a lot of relationships have turned around. So anyway, think about it as an opportunity to do half of your part. You can fill this out thinking of that other person. If you want to, then take another copy, have them fill it out, and have the meeting and have the conversation. Could be kind of cool. All right?
Alden, would you recommend I do this before the Hawaii trip or after?
Do it before. That way you'll be gone as they debrief.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Any questions that you have for me and any of that?
Just one comes to my mind. When you're listening to the other person, are there any questions you just tend to ask that helps draw them out?
Yeah, good question. And I think actually some of these get to that, The first one is, hey, when we engage, do we engage enough? Is the quantity of our time together sufficient? And when we do get together, how would you rate the quality of our time? Do we spend quality time together? Do you get what you need from me and I get from you? Other questions are, what do I do? And this is actually the format. When we work together, what works well? Like, what goes well between us? What do we have in common? And then, what doesn't work so well? What am I doing that you have a challenge with, right? What's the thing that I'm doing or saying, or the behavior that I'm exhibiting that doesn't really resonate with you very well? What is that?
Does this work with someone's spouse?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is very relatable to any relationship, really. Yeah.
I was just thinking of your list of all the things that people do that annoy me.
Yeah.
And some of the things that come to mind are like the person that knows it all, or the person that always talks about themselves,
right?
Or the person that is just thinks they are superior and bullish, right?
Right.
So you want to do this with them,
right?
But they're like, I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
That's right.
I do know it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. And so
yeah.
I guess when you want to go and develop this relationship and say, you know what, I have a issue with you, annoy me.
Yeah.
So we need to have a.
No, when I first developed this, I never thought that it would work. I thought, gosh, this is gonna be just too awkward. This is gonna just be a disaster. It is amazing. It really is amazing, especially in a one-on-one environment, where and I think it's helpful to say to them when you give it to them, like, hey, would you fill this out? There's something about our relationship I really want to talk to you about, and this is a format that I think would help facilitate that conversation. And so you're kind of teeing it up like maybe there's a problem, even though they may not know. And certainly when they fill it out, they'll be like, oh, okay, interesting. But it's powerful. It works. Yeah.
I've got a situation. This is really helpful, Alden, by the way. It's in India. We had alignment. We had an agreement on a pathway forward on some things.
Okay.
And then we came to our meeting in March. And at that meeting, it was obvious we didn't have alignment, we didn't have agreement, and this individual kind of hijacked the vision. And it was a huge disconnect. And so I'm on my way back, realizing I need to revisit that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when somebody hijacks the vision when you think you've had alignment and agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. And
he kind of blamed me. He said, well, the problem is you don't understand Indian culture. And I kind of agreed with him. I understand this much, but there's a whole bunch of cultural stuff embedded there also.
It's true. We didn't even get into that. I mean, there's so many aspects to why people do the things they do. And I think it's really just having that conversation, right? Mm-hmm. To just say, this is how I feel. Like, I thought that we had an agreement. Actually, we wrote it down. There was an email exchange. The email says this. And again, without slamming into the facts, I think it's helpful to say, hey, we had these facts, and when you did what you did, I felt betrayed. I felt like you changed the whole format. And it seems like other people feel that way too. How do we get resolution? Yeah, that's a tough one.
When you come in January, could you facilitate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any steps to identify as to whether maybe that other person has something you should listen to and that you need to adjust your thinking?
Yeah, that's a good one. And just to understand the question, is there a way to identify that somebody has an issue with you? Or
I'm thinking more that, say, like John's situation, where maybe they are right.
Oh,
or
right.
Maybe that is the next step.
That's right.
To know, I'm not saying that, John, with you, because
Yeah.
Gary.
Thanks, Gary. But you're wrong.
where maybe they have a point that I have not seen and I'm
Right.
not aware of.
Yeah. And this kind of format helps with that, right? Because they've had an opportunity to kind of think through it independently in a stress-free environment at their desk, bring this to you, and you might learn something about yourself, right? Oh, my word. You know, in my culture, when we say these things, it means X, and in your culture, it meant something else. Yeah, so I think that would be prudent to...
Maybe another question, are
Yeah.
there ways to identify my personal blinders?
Uh-huh.
Where, let's
Yeah.
say I'm a visionary and I run this company and I've got a guy that's managing the staff, he's
Yeah.
a manager type, I'm a visionary type, and he's saying stuff that's right.
Right.
And I just can't see it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the guy's stuck. I've been through that with several people.
Yeah. You know, as a designer, I'm a very visual person. And so I get stuck sometimes because what's happening is as people are talking, I'm drawing the picture in my head of how it maps out, and if I can't do that or visualize what it is, it's hard for me to kind of put a thumb on it. Getting back to the Myers-Briggs, and just I think a big part of the maturity is really knowing yourself, right? It's really knowing that, okay, I am a picture guy and I'm a pattern guy, and I tend to look at problems and try to see what in my pattern library does that most fit like, and I have a tendency to do this. So when I'm dealing with a problem that is unlike any pattern I've ever dealt with before, it takes me longer, and I have to ask more questions to get to the heart of it. So I think, really knowing yourself will help you see those things that commonly blind you. And I've I think gotten to a place where I'm just okay asking questions too. Like, can we halt here in this conversation or in this meeting? When you said this, what does that mean, right? And see if you can't get clarity. Yeah.
One more minute.
One more.
Just make a comment about something, I'm old enough now, to have seen a lot of different transitions throughout my life.
Yeah.
Things played out.
Yeah.
And some of what is playing out today is probably more challenging for supervisors and managers than any other time in our history.
Wow.
I only see it increasing. And I'm talking about things because our younger generation has become inured to violence. They truly have.
Yeah.
They are so desensitized for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That has carried over into the workplace.
Yeah.
And into schools,
Mm-hmm.
and into higher learning institutions, and into churches, and
Mm-hmm.
everywhere else you can name.
And how does that manifest?
It manifests in people shooting each other.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Killing each other.
To the extreme.
Horribly doing all kinds of other things.
Right.
The other thing that plays into that is because we are in such a media-rich environment now, where people can tweet, Instagram, Facebook, email. Email is just one tiny facet of it. It's not even the most prevalent anymore.
Yep.
But people are openly harassed and attacked, and
Yeah.
very subtly in some cases, very blatantly in others. And this is happening in the workplace, by the way, as
Yeah.
well. Sexual relationships is
Yeah.
so now distorted and ripped apart. Relational issues are so distorted today.
Yeah.
It's kind of I think one of the most challenging time in our history right now to have to sort through all of this. And
Yeah.
find a way to, and I've had to do that. I've
Right.
had situations resulting in deaths.
Right.
Because it was that serious.
Wow.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suicides, murders, because of the realm I worked in,
Yep.
security and law enforcement.
Right.
And I've dealt with it on both sides of the realm, with clients and with my own people. And it's just tough stuff,
That's
I mean,
huge.
Everything you said is absolutely right on, but there is another whole level of this.
Oh,
that
yeah.
This doesn't even touch on.
That's true.
It really is.
It's true.
And it's so challenging and so difficult.
Yeah.
And I had days where I just had to close my eyes and isolate myself and go pray about it.
Yeah.
Where I just don't have a clue
Yeah.
where to go with this. This is just so out there, and who would ever thought, you know?
Yeah.
But it is. It's just some amazingly challenging stuff
Man.
right now going on. So that last part about praying is a big deal.
Yeah,
You
I'm
really
telling
just
you.
gotta give it to the Lord.
Right. And being a person of grace, I think, is huge too, because it's hard to, you just don't want to inflame a person, right? I mean, sometimes in law enforcement, you have no choice but other to lay down the law. I mean, this is the law. You can't break it. In the workplace, it's, you know, how do I hold my boundary and my line for what is true and where it is, but also do it in a way that's diplomatic and caring and loving, so that you don't come after me. But yeah.
Diplomatically.
Thank you very much for your time.